Good kill, good kill. Hey, good kill.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to another video, guys. Today we are in the Mig-29. We're going to be taking on an F-18 Hornet in a BVR engagement. No dogfights here. At least that's the plan. If we get to the merge, then we got to do what we got to do. So here's the million-dollar question. Which is the superior platform? Is it the Mig-29? Is it the F-18 Hornet? Does it even matter? Are the missiles more important? The R-77 versus the AIM-120 AMRAAM? It's my personal opinion that it is a mix of all of these things. Now, the AMRAAM, in my opinion, is superior to the R-77 that we have in DCS at least, right? There's more modern versions of the R-77. But the version that I have on the Mig-29 here, it is not superior to the AIM-120 C5 that the Hornet is going to be firing. However, my Mig-29, in terms of my capability to get high and fast, is much better than the Hornet. So you could argue that, you know, my ability to get high and fast and fire my R-77 at, you know, tremendous speeds of Mach 1.2, 3, etc. is going to give me that little bit of you know, it's going to make up that disadvantage I have versus the AMRAAM. That's the plan anyway. We're going to find out if that's true. It may very well prove not to be, but this is my theory. As you can see, we are about 6,500 meters here, which puts us at approximately 20,000 feet, give or take. And we got the Hornet here on radar now. I got him in a TWS lock. And just important to remember that the TWS lock of the Mig-29 is not like the TWS of other NATO fighters. If I want to fire the missile, I am going to have to put him in an STT or a single target track, and at that point I can fire my R-77. Even though my R-77 is a Fox 3, he will receive a launch notification as soon as it comes off the rail. Now I am going to get a little bit of altitude here, and I'm going to do launch authorization override so I can fire it a little bit outside of maximum range, because I want to just put that Hornet defensive. That's a Fox 3, and we are cranking off to the left here and reducing altitude. All right. We're going to go ahead and defend here, continue reducing our altitude, and we'll fire another one at him if the opportunity arises here. Now you'll notice that you don't hear my RWR going crazy. This is obviously because his AMRAAM has been fired in TWS or track while scan mode, or TWIS, if whichever you want. You hear that beeping now. That means that missile has now gone pitbull on me, and therefore we're going to defend a little bit more aggressively through the cloud layer. Okay. And I'm going to try to get nose on here and get another missile off. And we will review all of this in TAC view, so if you're in any way confused, just stick around for that. We'll talk about everything. That's a Fox 3, and we're going to defend cold. Okay, we are pretty close quarters here, and so that means that the margins for error are going to be very small. And remember that we've talked about the MAR being about 10 miles for the AMRAM on the deck here. Now I am in a Mig-29, which means my ranges are displayed in kilometers. That means about 16.1 or 16 kilometers is going to be the MAR that we are going to try to respect here. And as long as we can respect that MAR, we should be safe versus the Hornet. Because luckily I have Fox 3s of my own. Having Fox 3s really changes the dynamic of the fight here. We got Luck. He's got a missile off on me. Fox 3 from me. And we are once again off cold. Good, good, good. We're still alive. Okay, more cold. Continue cold for a little bit here. I don't see any missile contrails or anything, or missile smoke I should say. We have a missile direct front. Fox 3, this is going to be a tight one. Luckily the Mig-29 is so fast, I'm confident in its ability to get in and out of the MAR quickly, if need be. I'm kind of just zooming away from that Hornet right now. I'm just throwing missiles at him to make sure that he can't follow up behind me. There, that hit him. You see that? You see that smoke? Yeah. Splash one Hornet. That was a tight one. And again, guys, we will review this in TAC view, so if you're confused, stick around for that. Alright, round 2 here, and one of the important concepts that I think is being demonstrated in this fight is how Fox 3 capability, the missile's ability to turn on its own radar and track its own target, really is a game changer. You know, Fox 1s are just way too limiting, forcing you to stay nose hot like that when the other guy can fire a Fox 3 and turn cold. It's very much, you know, pretty much a death sentence if we're being honest in that situation. Fox 3s make a huge difference. Which is one of the reasons, honestly, why flying as, you know, the Russian flankers and even the Mig-29 without the R-77 is very difficult. The only way where the Fox 1s are in any way going to be challenging against the AMRAM is if they have a longer range. And the Fox 1s, the R-27ERs that we have in DCS, they can't even do that. So you're outranged by the AMRAM, and you also can't turn cold. You know, like, that's a recipe for getting killed. The Hornet, the Mig-29, again, with its R-77s, because it itself is such a fast platform, and it can get really fast and sling those R-77s, can be competitive against the Hornet. Can it be competitive against the Eagle or the F-16? I don't think so, because those aircraft are also capable of getting very fast, and therefore they, you know, their AMRAMs perform much better than the AMRAM that comes off of a Hornet, for example. Just because the Hornet can barely get above Mach 1, really, if it's carrying any kind of real payload. Alright, we are defending now. Same thing, we're going to fire our missile, we're going to crank. Remember, we're going to crank because we have time, right? If you're close quarters or, 10 or 15 miles from your bandit, you're not going to crank. You're going to go cold immediately. You heard the RWR there telling me that we have a Pitbull AMRAM incoming, so I'm going to just crank a little bit more. We're going to dive down. This is not even a crank technically because I lost the lock, so I'm just flat out cold now. We're going to have to go ahead and recommit. Luckily, the R77 does have its own onboard radar, so it should be giving that Hornet trouble right now. And I got to recommit and get another missile out on him. And we're getting into the sun, so we're going to put up the shade, the HUD visor, whatever you want to call that thing. Make it a little bit easier to find our Hornet. I got him. The idea here being that you're constantly trying to fire missiles at him and give him something to think about. Keep him defensive, keep him defending, right? The more you can make him defend, the harder it'll be for him to attack you. And you just want to close your ranges so that your missiles can reach out and touch him just before his can touch yours. And especially with these two aircraft, with these kinds of missiles, the ranges are very tight. He's over there somewhere. Go ahead and turn in that direction. There he is. Locked. Got nose on. Get a little bit closer here. Remember, we said 16 kilometers is the MAR. That's about 10 miles. Okay, drop tanks and Fox 3. And we're going to defend the opposite direction. He seems very defensive right now. He's not going to be able to get nose on again, I don't think. And we're just going to stay nose hot on him, keep firing missiles at him until he dies. And we got him. That one hit him. Yeah, that's what happens when you allow yourself to become defensive like that. The other guy could just push you and fire missiles at you until he kills you. Alright guys, quick little TAC view review here. Now before we get started, we gotta talk about some things that I messed up at the beginning. I had said in the video that the Mig-29 gets fast because it can get fast. It can get to Mach 1.2, 1.34. It can kind of help, even the fight out a little bit because I'll be able to sling my R77s further. Now, as you can see in this image, what I screwed up was that I exchanged too much of my speed for gravitational potential. I climbed a little bit too fast, and therefore my Mach speed is just over Mach 1. You can see here Mach 1.04. We have the blue Hornet here at Mach 1.02. So in this situation, this Hornet has every advantage, right? He has the better AMRAM, and he's going faster than me. And we know that, objects in motion stay in motion. So a missile that comes off the rail of an aircraft traveling at Mach 1.2 is traveling 1.2. And then it turns on its own burner, its own engine, and burns its own fuel and adds its speed on top of the Mach 1.2 initially that it came off the rail, right? So objects in motion stay in motion. If you are traveling Mach 5 and you fire a missile, that missile is now traveling Mach 5. And then its own fuel adds to that speed even further, okay? So that being said, again, so what happens here is that Whether I'm faster or he's a little bit faster doesn't change the overall game plan here. The Mig-29 is outranged by the AIM-120, so the objective is to get close enough to him, survive long enough that I can get close enough to him that my missiles can reach out and touch him. This is the objective here. So about 23 miles, 25 miles it looks like, we fire our first R77 at just over Mach 1, very close to actually Mach 1.11. Mach 1.1. Hornet fires at about Mach 1.3, and we have his AMRAM coming in. We'll increase the speed here a little bit. So what you see me doing is, for people who are new, we are cranking off to one direction here. We're going to crank to the left, and what this does is it's going to drag the missile to the left. Missiles have a finite fuel. They don't burn forever like you see in that movie, Behind Enemy Lines. They only have, I think, the most extensive fuse on a missile that I've heard, like fuel burn time, is like 30 seconds. And I think that's the Phoenix missile. Other missiles, it's as close as like 7 seconds to 15 seconds. You know, that's all the burn time they have. After they burn their fuel, it's all kinetic energy. Every time you can make the missile turn, you're bleeding its energy. It's exchanging its kinetic energy for nose position. Think about its own nose, right? To maneuver the missile. The fins have to burn energy to be able to turn the missile. So what you're going to do is turn off to one direction. This is called a crank. The crank implies that you continue to illuminate the bandit at the gimbal limits of your radar. Okay, this is the whole point of the crank, is that you will offset defensively to drag the bandit's missile, and also you will continue to keep your bandit locked at the gimbal limits of your radar, providing guidance information for your missile. Okay, and so this is the whole point of this. All right, as we continue, and you can see that this R77 has almost nowhere near enough energy to hit him. So you wonder why I was able to fire it. Is because I did launch authorization override. I just wanted to fire a missile outside of the max range of the R77 because I wanted to force the F-18 to defend, right? It's very possible that he wouldn't have fallen for it, but luckily he did. And so you see that he has defended extremely aggressively. He's dumped almost all of his altitude and he's on the deck now. I am also coming down in altitude, and again, it's denser air, more friction at the bottom rather than higher altitude. So you do want to drag the missile down into the denser air, as well as making it turn. You're dragging it down into denser air, which is again causing more drag on the missile, slowing it down, bleeding it of its energy, right? But what you can see in this situation is that the tables have already turned. Okay, he is traveling now at Mach 1.01, and I am now Mach 1.34, right? So what you see is Mach 1.34, Mach 1.1, and I have the altitude advantage. Okay, I have a little bit higher altitude, and this is good because we always talked about the thinner air. If I want to fire missiles, thin air is my friend. If I'm defending against incoming missiles, thin air is my enemy. Okay. So right now, we just, from one missile launch, the table's completely flipped, okay? And the Hornet has basically made himself defensive. Now, luckily for him, the AMRAM is a very dangerous missile, but we narrowly managed to survive it. Not really sure what happens to its guidance here. I'll leave this up to ED to answer. But it just dies. It's just like, okay, I'm done. But you can see it's about Mach 1.1 when it decides that it's dead, and I'm gonna outrun that all day long. It's not a big deal. So even if it hadn't gone stupid, it still wouldn't have hit me. The Hornet has recommitted at this point. Even though the R77 is in front of him, it's probably not pinging him anymore, so he feels safe. He's recommitted. He has managed to fire another AMRAM at me. And this is one of the major things that I want to talk about before we continue further. BVR engagements don't always lead to the merge. In fact, often they don't. Your objective is not to get to the merge. What you're trying to do is, well, the way it'll play out mostly is aircraft will do this, and then they'll fire missiles at these recommit points, and then when they run out of missiles, they'll go home. Right here, they'll go home. And the bandit will do the same. And he'll go home. And he'll fire missiles here and here, right? And in the middle, this is, think of it as a no man's land or a MAR. We've talked about this in several videos. It is the minimum abort range, okay? If you come into this MAR, into this space in the middle here, and he fires a missile, you will not escape, okay? You will not be able to turn around and outrun the missile. That missile will kill you. The only way for you to have a chance at surviving is to decoy the missile. At this point, you need to hit the notch, you need to chaff and flare. Obviously, you're not going to flare against an AMRAM, right? But you know what I mean. It doesn't matter. Sidewinder, same thing. The MAR applies to the Sidewinder as well. So you need to decoy the missile to survive if you are inside of the MAR. Again, this is the minimum abort range. Okay. And this is generally what's going to happen because the aircraft don't want to go to the merge. As soon as you go to the merge, all kinds of things can go wrong. Okay, he can see you. You might lose visual. You know, he may be the inferior aircraft, but maybe he's got a friend. Like, there's just so many factors. Like, why deal with that? Just respect the MAR, keep firing AMRAMs at him until one of them hits him. Okay, your odds are much, much better in that situation. Even the most minuscule mistake can cost your life in a dogfight. So it's going to be avoided, generally speaking, unless you dramatically outnumber the opponent. Then you may try to get to the merge, but that's a different thing entirely. So basically, this is what we're trying to achieve here. So this is what you're going to see happening as this fight continues. I'm going to put the labels back up. And so what you see is a recommit. Now the MAR is 10 miles for the AMRAM on the deck. So if I get inside of 10 miles or 16 kilometers, the AMRAM will hit me. So I've got to be careful of that. So you can see we are here 11 miles here when he's fired this one. So it's just outside of the MAR. I come in, I fire my Fox 3, and I just turn out and I'm ripping away. And again, remember, speed is your friend in a BVR fight. If you get slow, you will die. Okay. And one of the major ways that I think I was able to survive here was that I was above Mach 1 and the AMRAM didn't really have great guidance here. Again, this last minute AMRAM behavior is strange. So I don't know if ED has made a comment about this, but you know, this behavior of the AMRAM, it is unusual. Anyway, my R77 continues at him. You can see him defending here. Again, he fires an AMRAM, which may have been mad dogged. It may have never had a lock. And that's why when he fires it, it comes and hits my R77. And so you can see, again, both of us avoiding the no man's land or the MAR in the middle, the minimum abort range, right? And we are continuing to try to hit each other with missiles without merging. He does the same thing here. You see inside of 10 miles right here, and then he quickly gets out because he realizes how far in he is. And his AMRAM is extremely dangerous. My R77 also is well within range at this point. It should hit him. And that hits a tree, that AMRAM there. That R77 has no track. Probably because he notches it right here with the chaff. So that missile goes stupid. That was a very nice move by him. That missile hits the tree line. Inside of 7 miles now, so we are both inside the MAR, where we're both in very dangerous situations, and we're both below Mach 1. So this is actually a very even fight. Once we get on the deck, these two aircraft are very even. Once again, you get the R77 launch there. He fired his AMRAM much closer, or much sooner, at 8 miles. I fire my R77 at 5.7 miles, which is insane. Very close. and there we go. I don't know, man. His AMRAMs are just hitting. This is what I'm doing too. This is the other thing worth mentioning, is I'm reducing my altitude as I come through, and reducing the altitude as I defend is driving the AMRAMs down, and they're hitting trees and buildings and stuff. Some guy's poorhouse, and then we're dropping tanks here. Meanwhile, that Hornet just got clapped by that R77 because he does not drop his altitude because he can't really. He doesn't have much room. And that R77 just comes in. Again, that R77 hits him because he's in the MAR. He's inside the MAR. And that R77 hits him at about Mach 1.2 as he tries to recommit. Why does he not hear the missile coming? Why does he continue to recommit into the missile? Is because he has his RWR blind spot above the aircraft and below the aircraft 45 degrees. You have RWR blind spots, so any missile coming from this direction or directly underneath you, you won't hear it. There's no indication. So when he's recommitting here, he has no idea that there's a missile coming. Therefore, he commits right into it and gets hit. Should I be dead? Maybe. Maybe if those AMRAMs hadn't hit a tree or a building, they would have hit me. Although they don't really look like they're guiding correctly. Doesn't look like they have, you know, an intersection point with me. Mach 1.42. I don't know, man. I don't know if they would have hit me, which is strange. It's strange because I was well inside the MAR at that point. That was like 8 miles, right? 5 miles. Yeah, that's unlucky for him. But it's these little things, you know, you see the increase in altitude and then recommit, defend, go down, you know, pulling the missile down. It's little things like this that make the difference. So, all right, guys, I hope you found the TAC view helpful. Those of you who like the TAC views, this one's for you. It was a super long one. There's always a lot to break down in BVR fights, so I hope I didn't, you know, do an information dump or something. All right, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.